Joan Crawford was the ultimate personification of the Hollywood machine, a woman who didn't just play a movie star, but lived and breathed the role 24 hours a day until there was nothing left of the original person. To the public, she was the rags-to-riches success story, the girl with the big eyes and the shoulder pads who represented every working woman's dream. But behind the heavy makeup and the pristine white gloves was a woman who was widely regarded as one of the most terrifying, arrogant, and calculated figures in the history of the industry. For decades, the why behind the hatred directed at Joan Crawford was whispered in backlit trailers and hushed dressing rooms. But today, the full picture has emerged of a woman who weaponized her fame to commit acts of psychological warfare against her peers, her rivals, and even her own children. The foundation of the hatred for Crawford began with her sheer, unadulterated arrogance. She didn't just want to be a star. She wanted to be an institution, and she expected everyone from studio heads to janitors to treat her like a visiting deity. Her early years at MGM were defined by a casting couch reputation that she didn't just endure, she leaned into it. Scandal followed her as she reportedly slept her way through the executive branch to ensure she got the best scripts and the best lighting. This wasn't about love, it was about power. She viewed every other actress on the lot as a threat that needed to be neutralized. If a younger starlet was getting too much attention, Joan would use her influence to have the girl's scenes cut or her contract stalled. She was a professional predator who understood that in Hollywood, there was only room at the top for one person, and she was willing to destroy anyone who tried to climb the ladder behind her. This arrogance translated into a level of diva behavior that was considered extreme even by Hollywood standards. Joan was obsessed with her image to a degree that bordered on the pathological. She would scrub her hands with ice water and lemon until they were raw, terrified of common germs or the signs of aging. On film sets, she was a nightmare of control, demanding that the camera only shoot her from specific angles and that her co-stars be kept in the shadows to make her appear more luminous. She would often arrive on set and demand that entire lighting rigs be moved because she felt they didn't do justice to her bone structure. If a director dared to disagree, she would launch into a cold, calculated fury that could shut down production for days. She didn't just want to do a good job. She wanted to be worshipped, and she used her status to bully anyone who didn't provide that constant stream of adoration. The most infamous why behind the world's disdain for Crawford was, of course, her domestic life, which was finally exposed to a horrified public in the 1978 memoir Mommy Dearest by her daughter, Christina. While some fans tried to dismiss the book as a revenge fantasy, the details provided a chilling look at a woman who viewed her children as nothing more than PR props. The scandals described in the book, the midnight floor scrubbing sessions, the destruction of Christmas gifts, and a legendary wire hanger incident, weren't just acts of discipline. They were the actions of a woman who needed to break the spirits of those closest to her to feel powerful. Joan Crawford didn't want children. She wanted fans who lived in her house. When her children showed any sign of independence or failed to play the role of the perfect family for the cameras, she responded with a level of cruelty that shocked the world. She would reportedly stage death scenes to guilt her children and would cut them out of her life entirely for the smallest perceived slights, eventually leaving them nothing in her will with the final, cold line, "Asterisk, it is my intention to make no provision herein for my son, Christopher, or my daughter, Christina, for reasons which are well known to them." Asterisk, but her cruelty wasn't limited to her home. The legendary feud with Bette Davis provided a window into how evil Joan could be when she felt her status was being challenged. During the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Joan played the victim in public while being the ultimate aggressor behind the scenes. She knew Bette had chronic back issues, so during a scene where Bette had to drag her across the room, Joan allegedly filled her pockets with heavy stones and made her body as limp and heavy as possible, delighting in the physical pain she was causing her rival. When Bette was nominated for an Oscar for the film and Joan was ignored, Joan didn't just accept it. She actively campaigned against Bette. She contacted the other nominees, offering to accept the award on their behalf if they couldn't attend. When and Bancroft won, Joan shoved past a stunned Bette Davis to walk onto the stage and claim the trophy. It was a move of such breathtaking arrogance and malice that it left the industry speechless. She didn't care about the award. She only cared about the public humiliation of the woman she hated. As her film career began to wane, Joan's evil side found a new outlet: the corporate world. After marrying Alfred Steele, the CEO of Pepsi-Cola, she didn't just become a corporate wife. She became a corporate tyrant. After Steele's death, she joined the board of directors and used the company's massive financial influence to bully Hollywood. She would walk into meetings with studio heads and essentially demand they cast her in projects or buy her scripts, using Pepsi sponsorship money as a ransom. She was known to fire Pepsi executives on a whim and would treat the company's private jets as her own personal taxis, flying around the world to demand that store managers display her picture next to the soda bottles. She was a woman who had lost her grip on the silver screen and decided to take it out on the business world, earning the nickname the Iron Maiden for her ruthless, cold-blooded approach to management. Even her charity work was often a front for her own ego. She would spend hours every day answering fan mail, but it wasn't out of love for her fans. It was an obsession with maintaining her brand. If a fan sent a letter that wasn't sufficiently respectful, she would reportedly send back a biting, cruel response that would leave the recipient in tears. She used her generosity as a weapon, frequently giving people gifts that she knew they didn't want or couldn't use, just so she could hold it over their heads later. She was a woman who kept a ledger of slights, remembering every person who had ever failed to stand up when she entered a room or who had forgotten her birthday. Her arrogance was so complete that she truly believed she was doing the world a favor simply by existing, and anyone who didn't agree was treated as a personal enemy. The final years of Joan Crawford's life were a tragic reflection of the why behind the hatred. She became a recluse, not because she wanted peace, but because she couldn't bear the thought of the world seeing her age. She had spent her entire life building a plastic, perfect facade, and when that facade began to crack, she shut herself away and drank heavily. She would call up old co-stars and executives in the middle of the night to berate them for things they had done 30 years prior. Her arrogance had turned into a poisonous loneliness. When she died, the reaction from many in Hollywood wasn't one of grief, but of relief. The monster of the MGM lot was finally gone. We know why everyone hated her now. It wasn't just because she was a difficult star. It was because she was a woman who sacrificed every shred of her humanity at the altar of her own ego. She chose to be a legend over being a mother, a friend, or a decent human being, and in the process, she became the most feared and loathed woman in the history of cinema.